Hey everybody, Justin from ridecx.com here. We are about 1 year out from the upcoming 2022 World Championships in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I sat down via Zoom with race director Brook Watts for a conversation. Let's get into it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Justin from ridecx.com. And my guest today, I'm speaking with Brook Watts. If you haven't heard, the UCI Cyclocross World Championship is coming back to the United States. Fayetteville, Arkansas won that bid to have Cross Worlds at the end of January 2022. And Brook is joining us today representing the organizing committee. Brook, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to chatting about what I enjoy most, which is cyclocross and world championships.
I think the first time I heard your name was when was in association with the Cross Vegas race. For anybody not familiar with Cross Vegas, it was a nighttime race in Las Vegas, held under the lights, and it was typically held in conjunction with the Interbike trade show. And now that Interbike has gone away, that race has gone away as well. But when it existed, it later became the first World Cup ever to take place anywhere but Europe, which was a big milestone. And that was largely your doing. Could you give the audience a little bit of just maybe a bio introduction about who you are and your involvement with the sport?
Well, it's I go back to the dinosauric ages, racing cyclocross in the 70s, the mid 70s, late 70s in Austin, Texas, where I attended the University of Texas. I'm a Texan. And in 1978, a handful of us had the bright ideas. Let's stage the national championships. So a couple decades before the national championships were held in Zilker Park, the famous Heritage Trees edition, we held the national championships in Zilker Park, 1978, just a short 100 meters from where they were last conducted. And we had 19 participants, period. There was one field of racing and there were 19 participants, women, men, juniors, all raced together. So my background in putting on events goes back quite a long ways. Fast forward all of those years, and Cross Vegas, which was 11 delightful years of my life. You know, it just started with the idea of, gosh, we go out to Interbike every year, and there's nothing to do after hours. You know, we don't drink, we don't gamble, we don't go to strip clubs. Wouldn't it be cool if? And from that, I'll do it if you do it kind of thing. We created Cross Vegas, and I tell you what, you can draw a direct line from the start of Cross Vegas to the growth of cyclocross in the US. And I'll give you a perfect example. After that first edition, I had retailers, or rather distributors, wholesalers, the next day on the show floor of Interbike say, I've never written so many orders for cyclocross bikes. And I think it was in large part because people said, gosh, if they can do it in a soccer complex in Las Vegas, I can go back to Tampa, Florida. I can go back to Dallas, Texas. I can go back to, Burlington, Vermont, whatever, and I can put on a race. And the sport went like that. So that's very gratifying. About the second or third year, it was the Lance Armstrong year. Lance came out of retirement, came to Cross Vegas to race. And that same year, I had some visitors from the UCI, some guys who were very close friends of mine. And they said, Brook, this should be a World Cup. I think this was 2008. I said, well, we'll get there. We'll take our time. Let's continue to grow this thing. So fast forward now, several years later, I think we were a first day World Cup in 2015. And that's when I finally felt, okay, we have steadily grown this thing. Our infrastructure is strong. I've got an incredible staff, guys and gals who give up their vacation to come out and help me at these events. we're ready to do it. We jumped in and it was a great success. European racers, Belgians that I see even a couple of weeks ago in Ostendo still talk about the fun they had in Las Vegas. So we were very proud to be the first World Cup, to bring World Cup cyclocross to the USA. That has continued. You talked about the demise of Cross Vegas with the cancellation. First, the move of Interbike to Reno, and then, like so many other trade shows, Interbike, disappearing. And at that point, I moved on to manage the World Cup Waterloo, which took place for 3 years and continues to take place in Waterloo, Wisconsin, on the campus of Trek Bicycles. But my focus now is very squarely on Fayetteville 2022. And as you've seen in the recent news, the World Cup designation for Fayette Cross 2021, which I'm sure we'll chat a little bit about.
Yeah. Yeah, Cross Vegas was really special for me. I live in Southern California, and we have a very vibrant local amateur scene here that is
absolutely
super active, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about historically, where has the big, huge elite level or even international level interest in the United States been? It's Boston, Eastern Seaboard, it's Portland, Oregon, right? So for the opportunity for me to drive to Las Vegas and to see the best athletes in the world was frankly a kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity that I had never been able to watch cyclocross on
but it wasn't always that way, though. When we start going back to 1978, in national championships, Austin, Texas, at that time, the hotbeds of cyclocross were Santa Cruz, Eugene, Oregon, Austin, Texas, and then a couple of niche locations, which I attribute to the cultural background. Chicago, where you have at that time, a ton of Belgian immigrants who were continuing the cycling tradition in the summer, the cyclocross tradition in the winter. St. Louis, Missouri, which had a great number of immigrants that continued the cycling traditions across all disciplines. So these, the Bostons, the Seattles, they were kind of second wave, and that wave came pretty quickly. There was the 80s and 90s saw a lot of growth, but you're in one of the original cradles of the sport.
You shared with me that you've just returned from Europe, having been able to go visit the Ostendo World Championships for 2021, and that does sort of start the unofficial countdown, right? That race comes to its conclusion, and then although the bid is awarded several years in advance, in terms of sort of your countdown, you're now 1 year out from Fayetteville. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your experience at Ostendo, especially with the COVID protocol, and how they were able to make that race get pulled off.
Well, in fact, we've attended World Championships for a couple decades and feel qualified to conduct one, to organize one, and so our visit this year was less about, gee, we need to go over and see how they do the start grid, or gee, we need to go see how they do the finish line, or whatever particular technical aspect you might want to learn about. It would have been very easy to say, gosh, things are weird, and the amount of paperwork that I've got to do to get into Belgium, and my interactions with the Belgian consulate, et cetera, are just so prohibitive. Let's just stay home and watch it on TV. But we felt it was necessary to go over there to see, how does one conduct this type of world championships in a time of crisis? And gosh, we all hope, I've got my prayer candle burning here, we all hope that this is soon in our rearview mirror. But it was necessary to see, how do you control bubbles? How do you keep the public out? All of those things that we were able to see, and still see a very good race, as you know, I'm sure, from watching it. And it was fascinating to see the the public kind of hanging on the fence on the outside, kind of staring from, 400 meters away, getting a tiny glimpse of some ants going across that great big bridge over the tramway. So it was fun to see. Fun is not quite the word. Interesting to see how a World Championships is conducted in the midst of a pandemic.
Did you happen to see those photos of the guy in the wetsuit standing in the waves trying to
Are you kidding?
take photos from the beach?
I walked down there and looked at him, because the team staff and the media, we were all, kind of at another benefit of a restricted crowd is you could move very freely. Photographers were saying, oh my gosh, I was able to get photos in 4 different locations in one lap. That's unheard of. You're usually fighting the crowd. It's difficult to cross the course, but the point is, we're all in one location at one point where they come off the bridge, hit the sand for the first time. And then someone said, there's a guy in a wetsuit over there. And so it's like, boom, all the lemmings headed over there to see what that was all about. It's like, whoa, I wonder what he's doing. Oh, it looks like he's got a camera. And there was a Belgian naval vessel offshore. And then the buzz was, well, maybe he swam out from that ship, It's like, no, I don't think so. I think he's just a super fan. So yeah, we did see him. It was fascinating.
Well, obviously, there was a little bit of elite level racing and some pockets of amateur racing where people in the United States were able to put on some races last fall and last winter. But yeah, by and large, kind of the elite calendar was canceled, and many athletes sort of took a pass. So, I'm really excited about, as you say, kind of putting the pandemic in the rearview mirror and having, fall 2021, winter 2022, everybody really be able to get back into it. So I think it's going to be a big season for cyclocross, both with the participant at the amateur level and then for spectating too. So
I think there's a heck of a lot of pent up desire.
Absolutely.
Racer side and the super fans side. We heard that a lot from European fans asking, those that we did see in person off site. And our inbox just overflows daily with, when do tickets go on sale and what are the travel arrangements, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a big pent up desire. And so I second what you're saying. I think, we're gonna have a lot of interest in our season. Call it the Roaring 20s. I think we're ready to have some fun after this is all over.
Yeah, I think Fayetteville World Championship can be sort of the culmination and the wave of all this interest crashing all into one place. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Fayetteville, I think, received the formal announcement of this bid in like 2019. So, 3 years from the announcement to the actual event date, and you've been working behind the scenes. Can you talk a little bit about a timeline perspective, as the organizer promoter? What are you working on at a year out, 9 months out, 6 months out, and so on?
Well, so there are really 2 pieces to what I'm doing. The first piece is assisting from a cyclocross perspective in the construction of a new park in Fayetteville, a cyclocross specific park. I shouldn't say cyclocross, the cycling specific park. Centennial Park, it's termed. It's located very conveniently at the corner of Interstate 49 and MLK Avenue. You could throw a rock if you had a good arm and hit the University of Arkansas. It's connected to the great network of bike paths in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's going to have an incredible number of mountain bike trails of all levels, so boneheads like me can go out there and ride. There's other trails where guys can get big air and jump over stuff, which, my wheels never leave the ground. And then in addition to this is this fantastic purpose-made cyclocross course. And the park designers said, Brook, what do you need to put on a World Championships? And I said, well, I need a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I liken it to a cookbook, to a recipe. And I use this with the Belgians so they can understand, because the question is always from the racers and the fans, what's the course like? I say, well, you take a little bit of an Arkansas hill, which is like the Ardennes, you add in a little bit of Namur, you season it with a little bit of the Valkenburg course, and for a little spice, you add some Rutherford with the steps, which then have a Zolder plunge from the top. That gives you Centennial Park. And it truly is my idea of what can we take from some of these iconic courses, and what does that mean? What are some different skills that will test the racers of all levels? Climbs, plunges, 38 steps that you have to run up. Some areas that, given the right circumstances, could be muddy, off-camber areas. That's what you're going to have. So that piece, assisting in the course development, the park development, consulting on the construction. I'm not out there driving a Caterpillar tractor, but very closely in touch with the course designers or the course builders. So there's that piece. Then there's the whole other piece, which is a little more traditional putting on of a world championships, which is the all of that back end organization, not unlike putting on an Olympics, you might say, because you've got everything from how do you move people around, how do you deal with accreditation of both staff, media, et cetera, what do you do in terms of housing for athletes, official hotels, et cetera, how do you interact with the UCI on keeping all of this within the protocols that they have? So two very distinct pieces that come together and do in fact keep me very busy, and I have been busy. You mentioned that the bid was awarded January 2019. It's been day in and day out since that point, and it only increases. The workload only increases. But here's the secret: if you're working on something that you enjoy, it doesn't feel too bad.
People who are listening or watching this video, if I ask, where is your cycling hotbed? Where you want to take your dream vacation to? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they might have said Moab or Sedona, right? And Arkansas would not have been too high up on that list. But if people haven't really been following the news, it is not an accident that Fayetteville is getting the world championships, right? This is sort of the culmination of a lot of advocacy work with, I know the Walton family has been doing charitable giving, and IMBA has been working on some projects in Arkansas, really with the goal of making Arkansas kind of a world-class destination for cycling.
Well, and that's true. It's a great location. It's centrally located. You can reach it within a few hours of some of our largest cities, whether that's Dallas or Chicago, St. Louis. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's eminently reachable by the largest number of Americans, where Moab tends to be a bucket list kind of place. Sedona, those kind of places that we think of are a little more remote and certainly worth visiting. But jump in the car, take the family. You're in Northwest Arkansas. You go out and ride a bike, and if other members of your family aren't so inclined, you've got these world-class museums, Crystal Bridges, a new modern art museum, yet another one that's opened in Fayetteville. I mean, just the list just goes on and on. There's so much to do there. Fayetteville is a university town, and like all university towns, there's a heck of a lot going on. It's always vibrant. There's great dining. There's just so much in that area has to offer. It's really, really fascinating to see how in the last, I don't know, half a dozen years or so, that is just exploded, particularly on the cycling front. And that's cycling across all disciplines, or whether it's the mountain bike and you want to do the easy stuff, the crazy stuff, gravel riding like you've never seen before. You know, you leave your hotel and within 5 minutes you're on some gravel road, and you know, right all the way to Little Rock, right all the way to Oklahoma. You know, it whatever direction you want. There's just great riding. And if you're a traditional roadie, guess what? There's tons of secluded paved roads. So fascinating region, and people are heading there, moving there, and say, why are you moving to Northwest Arkansas? I love the riding there. That's all it takes. And on top of that, you've got some tremendous employment opportunities. So it's a special place, that's for sure.
I did not get the opportunity to attend the last time the World Championship was in the United States, but I'm definitely going next winter, and this will be my first go round. And the people that I've talked to that have had the opportunity to ride there have just said, you have no idea, they can't adequately describe on a website what you are missing out on if you haven't been to Arkansas for cycling. It is world class. So, sometimes we go to an event and you fly in and you do the event and you leave the same day, or you drive in and you leave the same day. And I would really encourage people that if you think you want to go to Fayetteville to see the race, to plan the whole weekend or plan a week, because there is a ton of riding and tourism and things to do
it's true.
in the area.
Yeah, bring your bike. Definitely bring your bike, not only to get out and have some challenging rides of whatever kind, but also it's just a great way to get around the town, get around the city. It is a super bike friendly city. Part of what was just announced with the at the same time as the World Cup calendar is that Fayetteville was named as the first in the U.S. UCI bike city, joining the ranks of some incredible cities around the world that have similar bike infrastructure, whether it's kids biking to school, people biking to work, recreational riding. So that bike city label that Fayetteville received says so much about how the region is aware of cyclists. Has been for many years. Joe Martin stage race has been going on for 20-something years. So there's always been this heritage of cycling in Northwest Arkansas, and it's undergone this renaissance in the last few years.
So let's talk about that World Cup. So World Championships is at the end of January 2022, but between now and then this fall, the World Cup series kicks off in the United States this fall with 3 World Cups on USA soil, which is really exciting outside of the upcoming World Championships. And one of those 3 World Cups is Fayetteville Cross. So can you talk a little bit about the relationship between the World Cup and the World Championship? How much overlap is there between the course and right. the venue and so on?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of overlap. We will use the same course, and we'll see how the World Cup goes, and may then make some modifications. What it does is give us an opportunity to showcase that beautiful Centennial Park, kind of a grand opening, a premiere, whatever, a coming out party for not only those residents of Northwest Arkansas, people who live in Fayetteville, but also cyclocross fans from across the U.S. and the world, for that matter, to come out on Wednesday, October 13th, October 13th, have a party in the park with us. So we've got racing in the afternoon, and then after the racing is finished, the party will go till dark. Opportunity to enjoy, beer, music, all kinds of fun. So that's the idea, to get everyone there to see how the park behaves, test all of our various systems, and then we rinse and repeat on January 29th and 30th. So we're looking forward to it. The staff members that I have are really focused on October 13th, knowing that we're gonna acquire our muscle memory, and then come back a short 3.5 months later and do it all over again.
Absolutely. So for fans that are interested. Obviously, this is not a race where you can show up and participate as an amateur like you normally can in cyclocross. So the World Championship will be spectator only. So for people that want to come in and watch the event, let's talk a little bit about how you get there and where you stay. So Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport,
Yep.
XNA, has a bunch of major airlines. And from what I can see on the map, that's maybe half an hour from the venue. So you're pretty close.
That's about right. It's about half an hour, which is a lot closer than some of the airports that I deal with. Like, if, my drive to the Denver airport's a heck of a lot longer than that. And what I always have to tell people is Fayetteville, Arkansas, do not book a flight to Fayetteville, North Carolina. The
Right.
airport code is XNA, not FAY. So that's your airport, and at the airport you've got everything you need in terms of whether shuttles or rental cars. Rental cars being much easier to navigate. Your comings and goings. Uh, the official hotels will be available on our website beginning March 1st. We'll have some discount codes that are on the website as well. So make your travel plans and then sit tight. On March 1st. We'll list all those hotels on the website.
One of
We'll
those
also
hotels will be sort of an official media center kind of HQ for people that want to be really close to the action. I know spectators will have the opportunity to possibly watch the pre-ride too, right? So if you're really a follower of the sport, you may have the opportunity to go to the venue and watch the course inspection or some of these media events, as well as the showpiece races as well.
Absolutely. For the World Cup, there is a Tuesday afternoon training session. That's the first opportunity for the racers to come out and see the course. And then for the World Championships, you've got training sessions on Thursday, Friday, and then the racing starts on Saturday morning. So yeah, at that point, you've got to come out, see what the guys are doing. The racers as they prepare. That becomes a big part of any cyclocross event, as you know, but particularly at the World Championships levels. That part of the fun is race day. I mean, that's the meat. But the fun part is going out there for the course recons and seeing the guys as they test some of these sections and prepare and things are a lot more casual then, so you've got the opportunity to interact with them. So to your point of making it, don't fly in on Saturday morning, come in a few days early and really get the whole atmosphere. And then what I have to add is, you've got various after hours activities, downtown Fayetteville. We've got all kinds of stuff planned after hours. So the party goes after hours.
I would point out, if you haven't been to a race of this caliber, maybe you may not be aware of how accessible the teams and the mechanics and the athletes are in cyclocross, probably to some other sports, right? We just had the Super Bowl in the United States. You're not going to be able to get into Tom Brady's inner circle
Yeah,
and ask him
exactly.
what kind of tires he's running this weekend. But cyclocross is pretty accessible, and you have a lot of opportunities to check out the riders as they're prepping or warming up that you would not have in other sports.
So true. I mean, you don't get to walk down pit row at Indianapolis and talk to Mario Andretti, and I'm showing my age by using that name. Ask Mario Andretti, what pressure are you going to use in your good years this year? Or can you sign my program booklet? And you can do that in cross. You can watch the guys on their trainers warming up. It's one of the things, one of the intimate elements of our sport that I like so much is that you can develop a relationship with these riders.
So another way to get close to the race for people that want to do a little extra, maybe is volunteering. So what kind of volunteer opportunities might be available at these events?
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. I probably would have neglected to say that, but we do have a contact form on the website, and that can be anything from one of our much needed course marshals. There's always an opportunity to volunteer there, and we've got several hundred volunteer positions that we need to fill throughout the weekend. So what we do on that volunteer form is ask what asks what your skills are, and then try to plug you into something that takes advantage of those skills, but also is fun. So there are opportunities, and yeah, there's nothing more exciting than being on the inside of an event. There's a certain intimacy involved with that. So I would encourage someone, if they want to get out there, do something a little different, please volunteer. We'll find a spot for you.
So for people that are planning trips, what should they expect from Arkansas for weather conditions in October and then in late January of next year?
Well, let's start with the easy one. In October, it's going to be probably in the 70s to low 80s. Very comfortable. We've got much more light because it's before daylight savings time ends. So that's one that's pretty easy to predict. Any predictions on what the weather's going to be like in Arkansas are, gosh, you better have a good bookmaker. It could be anything from slightly below freezing to mid 40s. There could be a little bit of snow. There's rarely much snow in that region. It's not an area that gets big heavy snowfalls, but there could be a dusting or an inch or two of snow in the rarest of circumstances. It could be rainy, but for example, I pulled up the forecast while we were in Ostendo. In other words, while the World Championships was going on, I pulled up the forecast of what was happening in Fayetteville on that day. And it was 42 degrees and partly cloudy. And then on Monday, after the championships was over, it was going to be mid 40s and rainy. Can I predict that's going to be the weather 365 days from now? No, but it was an indication of the kind of range that we might see.
For sure. Well,
but here's the good news. The soil consistency in the park, there's a wee bit of sand in the soil because there's a lot of sandstone around there. So the mud clumping aspect is very low. When it is wet, your tires shed the mud pretty quickly. As you walk around in the mud, it doesn't cake to your shoes so that you're doing, platform shoes. So it's we're fortunate that the soil type there is very favorable.
There have been some previous test events in prior years that got muddy, but I think it's not the same course, if I recall correctly, right? There's been some modifications to.
It's the same park, but not the same location within the park. You're absolutely right. And what we used was the pasture areas and some of the downhill into the woods. For the World Championships, we have gone much deeper into the woods, built a course into the woods, removed some trees to accomplish that. And so it's a completely different character. That was also an early October event with extreme rain conditions like I've never seen before. 3 inches of rain during the course of the Sunday, 3 inches of rain within the course of the Sunday races. I've never seen rain totals like that before. And as a result, those classic images, the one that's been floating around for the last week or so of Katarina Nash doing, a superwoman dive through a mud puddle. It was epic, that's for certain.
For sure. So for fans and people that want to think about attending, let's start getting the word out, right? So if you're unable to attend, obviously mark your calendar. This will be live streams available as usual, but I would really encourage everybody watching to take advantage of this sort of once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to see the World Championship in the United States. So let's talk about where people should go on the internet to stay informed. So I know Fayetteville2022.com is already pretty well built out with a lot of detail already for planning your trip. There's a course map. There's some information about travel and lodging.
Exactly right. Yeah.
About social media? What should people be following to stay in
Well, the
touch?
easiest way, rather than me try to recite a bunch of account names, go to Fayetteville 2022.com, and you'll see at the bottom our various social links. So jump, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, jump on those. And then for Fayette Cross, the October 13, 2021 event, go to fayettecross.com. And once again, at the bottom of the page, you'll find all of our social channels. Jump on those, follow those, and you'll be plugged into the latest and greatest news. Continue to check, bookmark those sites. Continue to check back on them. We'll add details, more interesting stuff as it comes along, particularly with regard to the hotel information, which will launch on March 1st. And I should add that ticket sales will open in the summer. That is something that will come a little bit later as we put this crisis behind us, and we're able to focus on how do we get together and do what we used to do, which is, stand around and pat each other on the back and really, hang out in groups like we all want to do once again.
So for fans that may have been exposed to world-class cyclocross only through streaming at this point, they may never have had the opportunity to attend a race of this caliber in the United States. So I think it's worth noting that you do need to buy a ticket, right? So
Yes,
sometimes
correct.
there are smaller, more local neighborhood races. You just roll up and park your car, and these are much larger productions. So I saw on the website that the expected turnout, for planning purposes, is like between 10 and 20,000, somewhere along those lines. And we got to pump those numbers up, folks, and show the UCI and show the cyclocross world that the United States is taking it seriously. So,
but here's more important. Yeah, you've got to come out. We know that. That's the obvious. Come out, support your sport, but you've also got to start working on your costume right now, because as any diehard cyclocross fan knows, the Europeans have got this figured out. You don't show up in your Patagonia and Levi's. You have got to go with the full-fledged, I support my nationality by wearing a costume that reflects it. So time to go to YouTube, figure out what the others are doing, and then start working on your costume. That's the best advice I can give a U.S. superfan right now.
For sure. So keep an eye on those social media accounts and the email list, for an announcement about ticket sales. Thanks so much for joining me today. Any last minute or parting thoughts that you wanted to share about the event that we didn't cover?
No, I've just tell people to go to the sites. If you've got any questions, go to the FAQs. They're pretty exhaustive. If the FAQs don't provide you the answers you're looking for, pop us a note on the contact form, and we'll get right back to you. We're uber excited, looking forward to hosting the world in Northwest Arkansas in a short few months.
Well, Brooke, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today, and I'll talk to you soon.
What a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys know the drill. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any additional questions for Brook Watts about the 2022 Fayetteville Worlds, drop them in the comments and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. Thanks so much for tuning in.